Neck-throughs, guitars, they're like a guy that you won't have a beer with you.
I want to hear what's pushing the notes.
Freddie King and B.B. King, Albert King, and let's not forget Burger King.
I don't want to blow my knuckle out.
Stainless steel is the work of the devil.
These go to 11.
From the East Amplification Tone Labs in Baltimore, Maryland, it's the Amps and Axes Show. With your hosts, Jeff the Godfather of Low Wattage Amps Bober and Mick Marcelino.
Well, good day to you, Mr. Bober.
Good day to you, Mr. Marcelino.
And boy, is it a good day.
Yes, it is.
We cannot thank you guys enough. You have been spreading the word, and we really appreciate it.
That's right. And yeah, keep telling all your friends about it. Tell them you heard it here first, man. That's it. We're not going to throw any more BS out there right now. We're going to get straight to our guest. We're going to take a pause for the cause and come back with the lovely Ms Tanya O'Callaghan.
Hi, this is Leo Moracchioli from Frog Leap Studios, and you are listening to Amps and Axes.
Hi there, this is Matt Wakeling, host of the Guitar Speak podcast, a weekly show produced in Sydney, Australia, interviewing leading guitarists, luthiers and gear builders from Australia and all around the world. We're into all sorts of styles, all sorts of gear, so if you love the guitar, why not look us up on iTunes or Stitcher and join thousands of listeners around the world who tune in to the Guitar Speak podcast.
All right, and we are back as promised with our guest of the week, Ms Tanya O'Callaghan. Tanya, how are you?
I'm good. You said it really well. Everybody always pronounces my name wrong.
Oh, well, I could go back and mess it up if you'd like.
I'm not used to it. It's like, well, it sounded Irish.
Well, you put a little Irish tilt to it when you were doing the show ID, so
yeah,
I figured I would pronounce it as best possible.
Fantastic.
So I always have a story.
Let's hear the story.
Okay, so, I do nothing but really just browse the internet. My boss would think that I'm actually working.
Well, half and half,
But usually I'm on YouTube, and I came across Tanya's, some videos, and I'm like, what is up with all these women playing bass? You know what I mean? I was like, what? So then I'm like checking it out. I'm like, well, we got to have her on because she is like crazy versatile.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you got many shoes even though you don't wear any.
That's a very, very good way to put it. I don't like wearing shoes, but I do wear many shoes or hats.
Hats.
There you go.
I guess hats would have been the
proper. She wouldn't wear hats on her feet, so
that's true.
I mean, I could start a trend. I'm sure it might latch on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure, man. Versatility is the key, in my opinion, anyway.
Well, we're gonna find out where that came from because we're gonna take a trip in the Wayback Machine, Tanya, and find out where Ms Tanya O'Callaghan came from. Where were you born and raised, and how did you get into this crazy, lovely music business? So give us some history.
Yeah, it is quite the journey. Yeah, I was born in a really small town in Ireland, in what's called County Westmeath, in a town called Mullingar. Pretty small town, not quite a village, but a small town. And yeah, I just had a very normal, nice childhood growing up. Had no inclination towards music till very later on, but my dad is a big music lover, so I did have I was exposed to an amazing vinyl collection, kind of I think which subconsciously kind of crept into my everything. But I spent the first literally from when I could crawl until I was about 18 working with animals. That's all I did. I was like an animal rights activist. I was working for vets. I was working for rescue centers. Everybody presumed I would be a vet. And then I picked up a bass. It all went wrong.
Wow. What is this animal?
What is this animal? I like this animal a lot. So, yeah, that was quite the 360 turn in my life, to be quite honest.
So what was your
picked up a
record?
bass.
What was the record collection like? What kind of influences came from there?
You mean when I first started?
Yeah, your dad's. You said your dad.
The vinyl collection. Yeah, I mean
yeah.
that's the thing. I always, when I look back now in hindsight as an adult, I don't think I appreciated it when I was younger because you're just a kid, like whatever. But I was exposed to such a variety of music with my dad because he listened to classic rock stuff, Zeppelin and Floyd and all that. But he also listened to Willie Nelson and all sorts of country and funk stuff and whatnot. So I guess it was just kind of creeping in. The radio was always on. My mum loves music, but nobody plays music in my family. I have two cousins, one on either side, that play guitar, and one's a singer songwriter. But other than that, there's like no music in my family. It's quite bizarre.
Wow. Well, at least at least they were music lovers, So that
big time.
Kind of put it in your blood early.
And you could associate the animal thing and just call it a bass.
Exactly, it's like a bass. Like when I first came to the States and I went to Bass Lake, but didn't know that there was a fish called bass, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's Bass Lake! This is the best lake in the world." So,
take a helicopter ride to see if it's shaped like a bass.
Yeah, I was like, I have a picture of me standing in front of Bass Lake, and I'm like a child. I'm like, "Oh my God, it's called Bass Lake."
That's
so
great.
Cool.
That's great.
So yeah, but that's where it all began. But I actually didn't pick up a bass until I was 17, 18. Started dabbling, and then I was like, oh, I like this a lot, and then I got super obsessed, and the rest is history.
So, with the bass being more of the obscure instrument, what was the thing that drew you to that more than like playing guitar?
Well, I did. I went to this music course in my hometown, just like it wasn't like a college, it was just like a course you can do in the town. And I went in as a drummer because I'd taken like 5 drum lessons, and I was like, I'm going to be a drummer. This is awesome. I'm going to be the best drummer ever. But I didn't have a drum kit. So I enrolled. I had been taking lessons with a local drummer. And that was pretty nifty. I could hold a beat and stuff, and I was really enjoying it, but I couldn't afford a drum kit at the time. And I went in, enrolled as a drummer, but when I got to the centre where they do the music course, they only had an electronic drum kit. And it was before good ones came out. I'm talking like the very first Roland V electric drum kit with these tiny pads, and the worst. I played it for like 5 seconds, and I was like, ew, I hate this so much. I don't want to be a drummer anymore. Just like that. And then I was walking around the different rooms where people were playing, and I saw a local guy. I always put it back to Niall, really. There's a cat in my hometown called Niall Masterson, who's a fabulous bass player. And I had seen him play in bands. I knew him, but I didn't hear bass out of context of, the covers band or the band. I hadn't heard bass separately yet or like associated with it. So I heard him noodling, and he was playing like Primus and some Jacko stuff and all this like harmonics and grooves, and I was like, holy shit, what's that? I want to do that. So in a very kind of phasey move, I was like, I'm not a drummer anymore, now I want to be a bass player. So that all happened in 24 hours. And
well, we can obviously thank Roland for that.
Well, there you go.
Thank you, Roland. Sponsored by Roland. Not.
Thank you, Roland, for making a crappy bass drum set back in the day.
So you inspired me to play bass, right? So yeah, anyway, then there was no bass instructor on that course. There was a guitar teacher there who saw that I was really keen on this, and he gave me a loan of a G&L bass, and he gave me a book of scales, and he was like, here, go do this. So that's where it started, and he was very encouraging, and he kind of, I'm pretty much self-taught for the most part, but he started to introduce me to doing grade exams and following charts and, opening up into different styles and whatnot. And I just got so obsessed. Like I literally, that was it. It was bass suddenly, 24/7.
Wow.
Yeah, that's really cool. And
it's not a frustrated guitar player.
Right.
You know?
Right.
because that happens a
you know,
lot.
it is really good that there was some drumming potential in her. It's like, you know, most good guitar players, especially rhythm players, a lot of them play drums. We found this out.
Oh,
A lot
yeah.
of them started on drums, and that's where you
Oh,
get
yeah.
the real rhythm content from.
Well, that's
you know?
the thing. I do remember, like, looking back, like, always being drawn to rhythmical stuff. So, you know, even way before I played an instrument, I was in trouble in school all the time for tapping on tables. So it was like, you know, I'm constantly playing drum beats because I actually had my earphones in and I wasn't listening to the teacher. I was listening to Tool or something, tapping out rhythms on the desk. So yeah, the rhythm thing is definitely all interconnected and intertwined somehow. That like to be drawn to a rhythm instrument, for sure.
Yeah, that's really cool. So you got the G&L bass, which, hell, that's not a bad bass to start on.
No.
My God.
Right, in hindsight. So that wasn't mine. Obviously, I could use that when I was in the course or whatever. But for the longest time, I had no bass at the start, and then I managed to like do a swap because I was about 6 weeks into playing bass, and I was in my first band, which was pretty funny. It was my cousin's metal band, and I was like, oh, I need a bass. So there was a guy selling an old Ibanez, like a really old, bet up, not looked after Ibanez. I can't even remember what model it is. It was shiny blue, though. I do remember that. And I was like, ooh. And we swapped it out for, like, I had no money. I was a teenager, and I was like, I'll give you some CDs. And I think I gave him, like, a packet of strings, some CDs, and, like, 6 cans of beer. And then I had my first bass.
That's awesome. So this might be the quickest that we've heard yet. So 6 weeks after picking up an instrument, you're in a band.
She's in a band.
Right.
Yeah.
You're in this metal band.
Well, wait a minute, though. It's not the youngest because Bumblefoot was, what, 6?
Bumblefoot
I think he was 6 years old and in a band.
Oh.
Remember
wow, that's a whole other.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah.
Well, Ron's he walks in a
Ron
different
Tell,
world.
yeah, man, we played together when I first got out here. He's pretty spectacular.
Oh, yeah, he's a dude, unbelievable guitar player.
So.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah, it was because my cousin needed a bass player for his metal band, and they had fallen. I don't know what it was. Teenage something or other had gone on, and they were like, "We need a bass player." And I was like, "Well, I mean, I'll do it." And I mean, it was like, when I look back, it was so bad. I mean, it was brilliant because it made me jump in the deep end, but it was heavy metal. We were like Norwegian black metal.
Ooh,
it was heavy. We were tuned down to C sharp. I had no clue what I was doing. Absolutely no clue. My cousin handed me a pick, showed me how to tune down, explained that, and then it was like, go. So I did a lot of rumbling around and not playing the riffs correctly, but I did like have to practice a lot because they had like a gig booked super close to when like after I joined the band. So that was like brilliant. So, and I've always been like that ever since. It's like just jump in the deep end. But when I look back, it was funny. I was like, I'd love to go back and play those gigs a little more precisely now.
Well, good thing they weren't a true black metal Norwegian band. Because I've heard stories like there's been bands where, you know, the singer sacrifices the guitar player.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
I mean,
I'm like,
we were doing the teenage wannabe thing. We were called Severed, and we used to hang crosses that we made upside down behind our drummer, who had the most inappropriate drum kit you ever seen for tiny venues in my hometown. He had like 3 kick drums and about 14 toms.
You know, I often say what goes over really well in Ireland is a satanic band that hangs crosses. Because there's no religion in Ireland.
Oh, no.
It's safe to walk through there.
Oh, my God. That's
pretty
funny.
It was a total act of rebellion. Because ironically, myself, I'm the drummer, and my cousin is the guitarist, who were the closest in the band. We were listening like diehard Doors fans at the same time. It was very strange.
Wow.
You're playing.
Well,
that is so funny.
Listening to Doors.
Oh, there you go.
You know, and giving both the Catholics and the Protestants good reason to hate you at the same time.
I wonder you didn't run you out of town.
Right? It was pretty funny. I mean, when I look back, like, I mean, it's just so epic. Yeah.
And so what? I'm curious. What came after the metal band?
Well, after realising that we weren't going to hit the jackpot with the small town Ireland Norwegian black metal attempt, as much as we loved it, I don't even know, that kind of just fizzled out because we were also at that throughout the point of being in that band, I had joined like a covers band, a corporate band that did weddings and events and whatnot, which again, I just jumped in the deep end because I'd never had to learn like cover songs before. So I got asked to join this function band. So I got busy doing that, and that's when I started like getting paid to play. And I was like, ooh, this is interesting. And I was in, I think, 2 cover bands right after that, which was keeping me pretty busy actually. Because we do like weekend warrior stuff, Thursday through Sunday, you do like 2 weddings and, a pub or whatever, different functions. So I was doing a lot of that. And then I had started dabbling with my own original band. So I was always from the get-go, I've always been in like no less than 3 bands at any time.
Wow.
So, and that's a minimum. At one point, I think I was in 9 bands at the same time. So I was like always just being in all the bands.
And I just want to say once again, because when we talked to Bjorn Englund,
oh yeah,
he's like in 8 bands, know.
Yeah.
Look at bass and don't turn your head, don't turn your nose up at it if you're just starting. To some of our younger listeners, because obviously you will get gigs.
I've always said there's a dearth of guitar players. There's definitely not enough.
I could throw a rock out the window too.
Right.
Yeah, right. No, it's so true. It's like, and bass and like good, like bass players who can just lock in and hold it down are so essential. Like, and the more you tour and you're in cities like this in LA and New York and that, like there's so many flashy players as well, which I admire beyond belief. But it's like the world absolutely needs all the solid bass players.
Oh,
for sure, for sure,
man. Yeah, I mean,
that's the thing. Yeah,
I just say like Leland Sklar.
I love Lee.
I mean, you'll work forever.
Yeah,
Lee is like my favorite human ever. I just
awesome.
love spending time with Lee. He's a phenomenal musician, obviously, and like so iconic. But he's also just a great human being.
Nice.
Like I can't even praise the dude enough. He's just the best, and he's super funny. So we because we're always at the Warwick events together. He comes and he does. We're in Germany every year together, and we do NAMM, and because we do all our like signings and stuff and workshops and stuff together. And he's just a stupid amount of fun, and his stories. Like every time I think I know everything about Lee, he's just like, "Oh, and by the way, this time, with, like, oh my God, you play for them as well."
Well, I often say that when you hear a good bass player, when you listen to that line. Yeah. It's like, A, you wouldn't even think of it, and B, you're like, how's he doing that?
Yeah.
Because as a guitar player, like I go, how's he playing that? Like, it's not something that's flashy. It's just the timing piece.
But it doesn't have to be flashy, but it's generally perfect.
Yeah, and you're going
perfect for the part.
Perfect for the song.
Yes.
Exactly.
And it's like not too much. But it's
never.
It's not. It's not in the background so far that you don't know the guy's there. It's just in that in that pocket.
So it makes the best.
Huge thing. And it's like again, like you've got so many flashy players on every instrument. But like if you're not playing for the song, for the music, then you're just playing for yourself. And it's like if this applies mainly, obviously, if you want to be a session musician and you want to be a hired gun. You don't go in and play all over everybody's music. You go in and play what the song needs.
Right.
So that's super essential. And groove, like that's where I'm not a flashy player. I mean, I can do flashy stuff if they need me to, but I'm definitely way more inclined to just groove and sit back. And that is a lot of the time why you get a lot of work, because you do that, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people think it's the opposite of going chops on top of chops on top of chops and impress. And that's great. I mean, it is impressive. There's no doubt about it. But will it keep you in work? I don't know.
Well, you couldn't have Flea come into every band and get hired.
I know. Well, that's when Metallica were doing the auditions before Rob joined, and Rob, who's amazing, Les Claypool audition, kind of like a funny thing.
I heard about this.
But they're like, how are you going to put Les Claypool in Metallica? Because he should be Spotlight.
Right.
So it's like it doesn't work. So exactly, obviously dependent on the band. It would be pretty funny if Les Claypool was the bass player, though.
James Hetfield was like, "You're way too good
Yeah.
We're sorry,
But that's the amazing thing. Like, I mean, Rob Trio is a phenomenal bass player. I knew before he played Metallica. I knew of his funk stuff. He had that groove.
Yeah,
can't remember the album, but anyway, Infectious Grooves.
Yeah, Infectious Grooves.
So, but he's a perfect example of like, then he can go into Metallica and do that, or he can play funk, or he has a band called Mass Metal out here with Stevie Salas and Armand Sabaleku from Paul Simon's band, and they just shred. So it's like he can put all the hats on. So versatility, like we were talking at the start, is like that's where you're gonna, get the calls.
Yeah. Now, of course, though, he has a strap that's like 8.5 feet long because his bass is somewhere
so
around
funny.
his tennis shoes.
I just thought of something. If Les was able to join Metallica, that would be Metallica Prime.
Metallica Prime, kind of like Amazon Prime.
Exactly. So, what eventually led you to leave the 8 bands in your home country and come over here and start working on the left coast of the U.S.?
Yeah, it's a series of things. Potato famine. I know that really wasn't. Definitely wasn't a potato famine this time. Well, what happened was I've always been very much wanderlust. I love to travel, and I kind of had gotten. I did a lot of traveling around Europe to watch bands. When I was like 18, 19, I'd been did a run of festivals that I was playing and also just going to attend. And I think I kind of got the travel bug as such. And then I had been already in a couple of bands that were based outside of Ireland. And I had been in the UK a couple of times at that stage. So I started to sort of see the potential of like, obviously there's life outside of everywhere. But for me, I always have, and I still have it. I can't sit still ever. I'm the worst. Like I'm constantly moving. Even if I'm not touring, I'm traveling for fun. So it was part just like exploration and let's see what happens. And then I was going to move to London. And I thought, because London seemed to be one of the hit lists of the scenes, but I've been there a bunch of times and it just didn't settle with me. I liked it temporarily. And then I got asked to play on Maynard Keenan's project, which ended up bringing me to Arizona. And that's like 8 years ago now, I think, 7 or 8 years ago. And I came out for a couple of weeks when I did that. And when I got back to Ireland, my head was just like exploding with the idea and the potential of who I could meet in the US. So that was kind of the catalyst per se.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty, because I was like in the middle of nowhere in Arizona doing this album with one of my musical icons growing up, and that obviously triggered a switch in my head. And I was like, well, if the universe is putting this in my path, the potential is endless.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I guess you have to look at it that way, because if you really sat down to think about the possibility of not being able to make it, it would scare you from doing anything. So you got to just be a little, footloose and fancy free and just go see what happens. But I mean, that's really a scary thought. It's like
it's terrifying.
How do I put food in my mouth? I'm just
exactly.
Okay, maybe I have the money to get there, but how do I make money while I'm there to put food in my mouth and a roof over my head? And that's the scary part.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a strange thing, and it still happens to this day. I do sometimes like, what am I doing? This is crazy. What the hell is going on? But it's definitely like, I always look back in hindsight and things, and a lot of it comes to, it's partly a personality trait, because I've always been one. I'll just jump off the deep end and see what happens. But I also, you kind of like, for me, I don't have any serious ties. I don't have like a mortgage or kids or anything, so I could afford all along to like just push myself, and it's only me I have to worry about. So I think that maybe that helped, but also just my whole thing is like, literally, what's the worst thing can happen? It sounds like a kind of silly cliche, but if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Whereas if I don't try, then I just didn't try.
Oh, for sure.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
you don't want to live your life. You just got to trust it. You just got to trust it and go for it. Good instinct.
You can't live your life what if and should. You can't
no,
yourself.
Not at all.
If you have the opportunity to try it and you really want to do it, just go try it.
Yeah.
And good instinct is a very strong thing that I really, really follow. And it's just like, you know yourselves, it can just be a feeling of like, I'm just going to go over here and try this for a minute or whatever. But I always knew from a pretty young age that like I did not have any urge whatsoever to follow, I guess, the typical format of where I'm from, you know, and we're, for a lot of people worldwide, but, you know, by a certain age, do this and then get married, have kids, get this job, do that, retire. Like, that has always scared me. So I've always been like, oh, no, I'm going to go the opposite direction.
Well, good.
Which works with my choices, I guess. But, I mean, it's definitely not for everybody. But I love it, and I've had quite the adventure to date.
So what did you wind up doing when you made the trip? Where did you start once you got here to this country?
Well, the first place I was Arizona.
Right.
So I was in Jerome doing that, and that was awesome because obviously I was recording with Maynard Keenan, and that introduced me to a couple of producers through him, and the musicians that were on. That was actually Tim Alexander from Primus, and Jeff Friedel was there, and Josh Fries and Maynard and blah blah blah. This was the circle of people on this actual album, so that opened up, you know, a couple of connections via that. So I came back to Ireland with this like ecstatic ball of, oh my god, I can't believe I met all these people and worked with them, blah. And then I just honestly, LA just came into my head one day. I have no idea why, can't explain it. I woke up in my apartment that I was renting at the time in Ireland, and I was like, I want to go to LA. So I went on Facebook and I went to see if I knew anybody in California. And, you know, you can, back then anyway, I don't know if you can, it might have even been MySpace. Oh shit, maybe it was. But anyway, it was like search by location, and I was like desperately trying to find if I knew anyone, and I didn't. So then I found out there was a music convention called the ASCAP convention in Hollywood coming up, like in 4 or 5 weeks from when I got this kind of urge to go. So I ended up deciding I'd just come out on my own to LA and go to this music convention because, I mean, there's going to be music people at it. So I did that. I came out and I went to the convention, and I ended up meeting a friend of a friend of a friend who had a speaker company who brought me into to this after party at the convention. I met a couple of people at that, and I just stayed that time because I didn't have work visas. I was just coming on holiday visas. So you're just a visitor. So I came with my base and I kind of hostel hopped, and I literally knew absolutely zero people in the city. So it was very daunting. The first 3 trips for me here were like, there was moments where I was absolutely like, what am I doing? I called my sister in tears one day and I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing here. But the weird thing is, I would go home because you can only stay for 90 days unless you have a work visa. But I would only stay like a month or so because you'd save up, come here, spend it all in like 2 weeks. It's an expensive city.
Oh yeah,
and then go back to Ireland with my tail between my legs, all like, oh God, what am I doing? But every time, even though the first few times didn't feel right, I'd want to go back. It's the strangest thing, I can't explain. So to cut a very long story short, I came back and forth a couple of times, and every time I came back, I just like meet somebody. It was like tumbleweed, you know, you start to meet people and then you start to hear this jam night and that jam night and this producer and that producer, and I would just show up at studios, show up at jam nights. There was a lot of that, and it wasn't until the 4th or 5th time that I actually came to the US that I felt, okay, now I'm going to apply like for a visa and try and move here. So then that started, and I started to apply for a artist work visa, and then the Riverdance called me and they wanted to hire me back in Europe. So I was like, I want to go to LA. Actually, I need this tour. So I ended up touring with them in China, Europe and Canada.
Wow.
And then after that was done, I did like with rehearsals and pre-production and the tour, I did like 14 or 15 months with the Riverdance, and then after that I was like, okay, I'm going to LA. So I had kept in touch with, a big believer in always keep in touch with the people, the contacts that you made. So I check in on Facebook or send emails and just be like, hey, I'm coming back out. And it kind of just manifested like that. It's really strange to look back because it feels like 40 years of content in 3.5 or 4 years. I'm only here. This is my 4th year here.
Wow.
So a lot happened in a short space of time. And then it's just, honestly, that's how it happens. You have to like go and be at people's gigs, go to these jam nights, show up at this, that and the other. And then it becomes a very small scene. as opposed to the first day I stood on Hollywood and Highland and I was like, oh my God, it's the biggest city ever. I don't know anybody. Now I'm like, oh my God, I know everybody. It's so small. So
well, I'm sure coming off a Riverdance tour is a decent credential, decent little shingle to hang out to get conversation started with people that...
It's Ireland's Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
There you go.
Right?
You go.
It's like, it's the Cirque du Soleil, the Riverdance.
Right.
Yeah, and that's back to versatility again. It's an interesting thing because my CV from back home and here reads very randomly. Everything from rock, metal, the Riverdance, pop, a lot of pop gigs back in Europe. I could kind of, open a conversation with people from many different spectrums and be like, oh, hey, I worked with such and such, or, whatever kind of suited the conversation opener.
Sure. It's all about saying yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about saying yes.
I said this to him the other day, Pete Thorne,
yes,
one of our great guys that we've had on the show, but he really was the first guy to kind of tell us that, he got a gig one time because they said, have you ever used in-ears? And he went, yeah. Mm-hmm. And he had never used in-ears. But the guy before him said, no, I don't like in-ears.
No, I don't want to use them. Yeah.
And he got the gig.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
my God.
It's one of those things, man.
That's a total joke out here as well. Like, just say yes. I mean, I did a gig recently for a Latin TV show, and they called me and they said, can you speak Spanish? I was like, sure.
Okay, that one's awesome. Unless it's true. Is it true?
No, I can speak food Spanish.
Food. Taco.
Like yeah, exactly. So, but I went, music is universal. So I went and did the charts. I could read, so it was like, doesn't matter. So they found out later that I had terrible Spanish, but I got the gig.
But music is not written in Spanish.
It's Spanish with this heavy Irish brogue.
Yeah, I was like, I'm sorry. It's just you can't understand me because of my accent. This is perfect Spanish. What are you talking about? Don't comprehend.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's a stretch. My God,
everything.
that is a stretch. That's awesome.
Wow. Faked the language and got the gig.
Yeah.
That's a new one.
Sure.
Music notes are not written in any language.
It's they are the same language everywhere.
That's right.
Yeah. Big time.
Wow.
So you mentioned you read charts now, and do you like read everything or?
No. Reading gigs, actually, that was the first in a long time. I mean, the last time I did like a fully charted gig was the Riverdance, but I still learned it all by ear because I do read, but like it's one of those things, if you don't practice it, it's not exactly up to scratch. But very rarely. That was a Latin-based thing. It was all Latin music, so that was charts, and the Riverdance was charts. But I learned pretty much everything by ear. I mean, right now I'm touring with Dee Snider, so that's hardly charted. We're just like rock and roll. So it just depends on the gig.
That's Dee Snider's solo stuff, right? Or is he doing Twisted stuff?
Yeah. Well, we do a couple of Twisted songs in the set, just for fun, and the audience love it. Obviously, you can't not do. We're not going to take it. But we do his new stuff and a couple of covers, and he's writing more stuff now. And he's ridiculous, just a ridiculously fun human.
Oh yeah,
like
he has a
super nice person.
He has a story that, and I forget what it's in. It's a behind. Oh no, I'm sorry. It's a Twisted Sister behind the music.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
if you get a chance, watch that. There's a scene in there where he talks about where they were somewhere over in Europe and somebody threw shit at them. Oh. And
I think you told me this.
And their stagehand was Scottish, so he's going, "It's shot," and right. And he's like, "What?" And he goes. And he had to think of it, right? And he's like, they're throwing shit at you. And he's like, somebody actually took a shit, and then they
held it. He told me this.
He goes, how much anger do you have that you? He goes, first off,
actually,
where do you find the shit? And then you got, and then you got to throw
it. You got to manhandle it. Wow.
Yeah.
He actually told us that story in rehearsal one day. We were in cahoots laughing because, it was like, did this dude like hold on to it until the end of the show, or did he just shit in his hand?
Yeah, I mean, you really want to find...
Was it warm?
Yeah, do you want to find the guy, you know?
Oh, my God.
But here's a couple things. I saw Dee when he had his solo project the first time, and Al Pitrelli was the guitar player in that band.
Okay.
Just an amazing guitar player.
Uh-huh.
But Dee Snider, hands down, I've never seen anybody do what he does on stage, energetic-wise, and still deliver.
Ridiculous.
And
it's ridiculous.
He's 60-some years old right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that cat is in shape better than most guys in their 20s.
Yeah.
He's ridiculous. And he's like that in rehearsals. He's like that. It's so funny because, like, I said the first couple of weeks, you know, that we were working together, you know, sometimes in rehearsals I'll sit now because I have a bit of a dodgy shoulder, so just to take the weight off if I don't have to be jumping around while we're rehearsing. So, you know, I was just saying to him, by the way, you know, I'm only sitting because it's rehearsals, because I'm very active on stage. But he was running around, jumping up on the drum riser. I'm like, dude, this is ridiculous. I love it. And he's super fit, never smoked, never took drugs, never drank, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
He's very, you know, super into being fit and being able to deliver. So he's so impressive like that he's still, it's not, you know, he's not like just kind of flogging a dead horse, as they say, and just like, oh, I'll just keep doing it. He loves it, and he's so energetic and so healthy, and he's like that in rehearsals.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's, you know, he doesn't need to save it for the stage, obviously. You know what I mean?
No, not at all. Like, it's
I mean,
crazy.
When I saw him that time with Al Pitrelli, now this was years ago. This has probably been 20-some years ago. That cat looked like somebody had taken and thrown him in a pool.
Wow.
He was soaked.
Drenched.
I mean, soaked. This was at Hammerjacks.
Okay.
Yeah.
He got up on top of the loudspeaker, and when he got up, there was a pool of sweat from because the way he climbed up there, he had to rub up against it. And I was like, holy crap, man, that guy's, I never saw anything like that.
Wow.
That's hysterical.
And just deliver. I mean,
yeah. His voice is ridiculous. 'Cause it's funny, like, I mean, I was saying when I first got the call to come on board for that gig, I was in the middle of a tour with an R&B pop artist here, Hollywood Records kid, and I was pretty busy doing that and a bunch of other stuff on the side, and it was supposed to be like maybe just a one-off, and I was kind of thinking, I didn't know if it would work with my schedule, but I was like, I don't know, because I didn't really grow up or have any exposure to the kind of hair metal era. Wouldn't have been drawn to it because everybody, you know, a lot of people kind of presume you're a rock chick, apparently, because I look like one. But I actually enjoy playing a lot of different styles. But I was kind of thinking, I don't know actually if this gig will be for me, because I didn't know that much about Dee or Twisted Sister. But then it worked out and it aligned to do that first show, and then I was like, oh my god, this is just stupid amount of fun. It's not at all, you know, what I preconceived. And it's just so interesting, and his energy and the whole band's energy is just fantastic.
who's playing guitar in that gig?
We have Julian Cariel, Larry Cariel's son.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's so fun having Julian because, you know, I knew of him and obviously his dad, who just passed away recently, sadly. Yeah. Such an icon. I mean, Jimi Hendrix and Miles Davis noted him as, you know, one of the best musicians ever. So that's, you know, says it all. And Julian, who plays with us, his son, is his dad. He's phenomenal at everything. Like I had seen him play jazz and blues only before, and I knew of this cat like being a phenomenal fusion player. Then I'm like, he's on the Dee Snider gig.
Wow.
But that's the thing, again, back to versatility. And Julian, as we always joke, he's a good friend at this stage. He's super funny. He literally wears different hats for the gig. So
obviously.
you know, he's such a phenomenal guitarist because he spends so much time on his sound and his tone, you know, and because he's the guitarist, and we have two guitarists. He's my side of the stage, so like I have a lot of his guitar, and it's awesome because I really appreciate guitarists that spend time on their sound as opposed to just getting out there and making noise. So yeah, he's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So that's a joy to play with him.
Wow.
Well,
I really didn't know that he was out there and that accomplished. I mean, we had Larry on the show almost shortly before he passed. Kind of.
Yeah, I'm trying to find his episode here. Yeah, it was not that long. He actually had just gotten out of the hospital.
Right.
When we talked to him, and he was he was just it was a great interview though, because he brought us into that world and was explaining how he approached everything. I'm trying to find it. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Having a little bit of trouble.
He's insane. Oh, you guys should get Julian on. He's phenomenal.
We should.
He played for Alanis Morissette for a long time, and he's got an incredible career behind him.
We should definitely get him on.
Absolutely, and
So is this like the biggest rock thing you've been on before? Because you mentioned like you look like a rock chick, but you're really not. You're more diverse. Than that. Was there any other bigger? Were there any other bigger tours that you were on?
Tour-wise, back in Europe, I did. No, it was more the bigger stuff was pop. I guess you'd say more pop. I did stuff with the Corrs, that big Irish band, when they started doing their solo stuff, but that's more pop. A lot of pop stuff back in the day, my God, which was really funny because I came straight from Norwegian black metal band, and then I played with Westlife. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Westlife. They're like basically like One Direction back in the day, like pop-tastic boy band.
Wow.
Did stuff with those for that was funny. So that, but then no, the biggest rock stuff. I'm trying to think. God, I play with so many bands, I get confused sometimes. Well, no, more studio stuff. Like I mean, the stuff with the guys from Tool was definitely the biggest credential wise. But that was recording, and so live. Yeah, D is one of the bigger rock names for sure.
Cool. And Larry was. He was episode 139. We did that in
I'll have to look that up.
August of last year.
Okay.
Awesome.
And but now we gotta get into the gear.
Yeah, we do. You said you were with Corrs for a while.
Yeah, I saw them, man. They're great.
Yeah, I saw them. They opened for the Stones.
Yeah.
When I saw them.
Yeah, we were we were searching for their name one day.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah.
And it was the Corrs, but I was actually I actually saw that show. I forgot how many years ago. But
I was there.
Were you there?
Yeah, but
we weren't together. I was fortunately guest of Pierre, so we got to see it from the backside.
Oh, so I got to pay extra money and sit out. Was that the bridge one where they walked out on the bridge and then they went out? It was the tour after that one.
I don't remember.
Steel Wheels or whatever it was. I don't know.
A few of them. I don't know.
Yeah. All I know is all of a sudden they were playing in front of me like there was 1963 in a club.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
Everything was mono.
Yeah. I was standing
twins.
right alongside that little thing. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So were you out with them then?
I was out with so they're all siblings.
Yes.
So they did their thing for I don't know how many years. They were so huge for like 10 straight years, maybe 15, and then pretty much all of them, bar the brother, did solo tours. So I went out with Sharon, and we were doing stuff. Oh God, it was so funny because we went to Dubai and it was St. Patrick's Day, and it was just like expats madness.
Wow.
It's expats. But that was actually one of my first bigger sort of session gigs in Ireland. Kind of going up the ladder slowly in that world over there. So yeah, I did Sharon's stuff for a minute because her bass player. Keith, who is awesome, Keith Duffy, there's two brothers in Ireland, Keith and Jason Duffy, who are like the rhythm section session heads. He also played for Ronan Keating of Boyzone, which is another big pop band, and he was already booked for that tour, so I can't even remember how. I think it came through a TV gig that I got the call for that, and that was like, ooh, God, I'm kind of subbing out for Keith Duffy, which was like a big deal in my head back then. I was like, so that was awesome, and that was kind of I did a run subbing for him before. That was actually it was before I came out here. I'm trying to do the maths in my head. Oh my God, so much happened. That was super fun. That was really pop, but also because they're obviously an Irish influenced, like musical wise band. We did her songs, some Corrs songs, and then like traditional Irish music because we had an uilleann pipe player. So that was cool because we were doing an Anto Drennan played guitar in that band, which was amazing because he did stuff with who was he with back in the day? He did stuff with various members from Pink Floyd solo projects. I can't remember on which line, but yeah. So the level of musicians I was only 19 or 20, I think. And I was like, ah!
Wow.
And they were super supportive. It was
I
funny.
was just in a death metal band.
What am I doing? And they were playing, like, Core's radio hits.
That's
my
fantastic, God. So you did mention gear, and we do want to find out about the gear.
We
And
gotta
you had actually mentioned, was it Warwick?
Yes.
Warwick.
Yeah, Warwick, yes. So how did you get? How did you come to find them, or they found you? And how did that relationship come about?
It's amazing, perfect timing. And I don't know whether the universe lays this stuff out or not, but I had been looking for an amp scenario because I've already been with companies for my bass endorsements, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I was just about to sign, I was like being offered all these endorsement contracts by various different amp companies. And I was at NAMM the year before last and at Bass Player Live, and I was talking to a different couple of different companies. And I had met Hans Peter, who's the owner of Warwick. I don't know if you're familiar with Hans, who basically owns all of Warwick in Germany, and they distribute worldwide. So I had met him through the circle of bassists, Lee Sklar and Divinity and a couple of friends of mine. And, I'd met him. And then I was wandering around NAMM, and I was like, you know what, actually, I think I'll just pop over to the Warwick booth because I wanted to go say hey to a couple of friends that were there, artists, and I just was like, oh, you know what, actually, I'll talk to Hans about his amp. So I walked over to him, and he was like, oh, I was looking to talk to you. I'm like, perfect, because I'm looking to talk to you. He's like, I know that, because I had already told him I don't need anything in the bass world, but I'm looking for the right company for amps. So he was like, perfect, because they just launched this LWA head, which is what I use, and it's phenomenal. So it came about like that at NAMM, and we had already met each other, and he's kind of looking for artists to push the amps more as well, because they'd just done a series of signature basses with a bunch of different people, and that was already kind of prominent. So it was perfect timing, and I jumped on board with them, and like literally 2 days later, they'd shipped me a giant rig from Germany. So it was like Christmas. So they sent me this like ridiculous rig that, I probably don't need half of, but have. But my main thing with them is this LWA head. It's a 1,000-watt lightweight head, and it's got 2 channels, and it is the best invention ever. I love it so much. It's phenomenal. Like, I know you guys are into the gear side of things, and I didn't even realize when I first got it how epic it was, because I was thinking, it's lightweight, and after touring for so many years, you start to get to the point where you're like, I just want whatever's the lightest.
Right. Absolutely.
I used to log around a giant GK rig, which I adored, but I'm pretty sure I slipped a disc in my back lifting it. So I got this head, and it sounds amazing anyway, and it has the 2 channels. But it was perfect because last year, especially when I was touring with that R&B artist, I had a lot of changeovers in the set, and they wanted me on 4 and then 5 string and 4 again and 5. My set was like a mess with changeovers, and that's what they wanted. So with this, you can mute the channels. So there's no changing the bass over. I have 2 basses plugged in at all time and 1 channel muted, and I just put one down and pick the other one up.
Oh, that's nice.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like a built-in AV box.
Cool.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's none of that, like, pulling jack leads out, waiting for valves to cool down or warm up, or waiting for the front of house guy to mute your channel. There's none of that ka-dunk. No, jack lead. So it's, and for gigs like that, it was awesome because they were already like, I had a lot to think of. I was changing bass nearly every other song.
Yeah.
So I just it's the best head ever for that, and it's great quality, and it's super lightweight, and it comes in this little, little pack thing you throw on your back, and it's tiny.
Yeah, it's so funny. I mean, nowadays you get a 1,000-watt thing that weighs like 3.5 pounds.
Yeah, it's insane.
And it sounds great.
It sounds awesome, and then you can hook it up to whatever cabs are in the the local venue if you can't bring your own, and it always it hasn't let me down. I love it, and it's great for even practicing, because if I'm like sitting around or doing like an acoustic session with somebody and there's even a guitarist, you can just plug into the head and we like one head and 2 instruments.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, do all your gigs allow you to push air, or do you have to do some stuff where you have to go direct and use in-ears and?
It depends. I mean, we right now with we're still pushing air, and he likes it that way. We have the option to use ears. With the river dance, I was fully in ears. With the most of the kind of pop and R&B gigs over the last 2 years, it's been a mixture of both. A lot of times they'll say, "What do you want?" And depending on the budgets and the production of the tour, sometimes it's an aesthetic thing, sometimes it's practical. So it totally varies. I mean, I'm old school and I still love a big loud monitor, and I still like to just do it that way and do it old school. But it just it's completely dependent on the artist and what's wanted, etc., etc.
Nice. Bass. Are you?
Yes.
Are you playing Warwicks, or are you still playing something else?
Yeah, no, I never played Warwick basses. I used their amps. So
right. I thought maybe they had
with,
brought you over, full scale amps and basses. But so if you're not playing that, what are you playing?
Yeah, I play. I just got my very first custom bass. Actually, it's the company called Exotic. They're a Japanese boutique company, and they're amazing. So it's like the bass that I have. I'm sure you're familiar who Chuck Rainey is.
Mm-hmm.
So I play Chuck Rainey. I have them for the past 2 years. I played Chuck Rainey's bass. It's his model, from this company called Exotic, and essentially it's like a J and a P mixed up. It's like
kind of like the best of both worlds.
Yeah, exactly. It's super versatile, has a hip shot D, but they just built me my first custom, which is fucking amazing. And I have like custom body work, and it's awesome. It's like a relic. I'll have to send you a picture. It's so beautiful. I'm like literally in love with this bass, and it sounds amazing, and it's super versatile. And I also play Roger Sadowski basses. Like I've known Roger for years now, and he's like obviously the head honcho of luthiers. So I have a five string of his NYC. And I love that. And I have a 4-string that I leave with him in New York, because I'm in New York a lot and I'm very close to him and his family. So I have my 4-string in New York and my 4-string here, my 5-string there.
Well, I mean, it's nice that you don't have to worry about the airlines breaking it, when you go and... I
still carry, but I travel with a tech for the most part, and we have crew for most shows, so it's less nerve-wracking these days. But that's the thing, you get so... Like, you also get very protective of your instruments when you travel, obviously, because I've had bad experiences. Like when I toured with Sharon Core back in the day, I had I got paid for my first big session gig, and of course, like every musician does, I went and I spent the entire check on a bass. So I bought a beautiful Stingray. It was because I played Ernie Ball for years before I came to the States, and I bought a Stingray, and it got opened in customs on the way back from Dubai. And they didn't close it properly, and it took a bunch of knocks, and it was never able to be fixed. The neck was cracked.
Oh, man.
And it was heartbreaking. And you fought with the airlines back and forth, but they have all this small writing, and whatever. And basically, they reimbursed me like €150.
Oh, my gosh.
And I was like, so anyway, basically now, I have like really great cases, but I carry for my custom and anything from Sadowski, I carry on with me. I will not check it in.
Do you have to buy it at a
I'll
seat?
carry it on, and not usually. I mean, it depends, because I do a lot of long hauls, transatlantic. They're usually cool once you don't carry on a bunch of stuff, if that's your main thing, and then you just have a small handbag, they're fine. For smaller internal flights, sometimes they give you trouble, but for me, I've just learned, because I fly so much, I'll like politely go up to the counter and tell them, hey, look, I have a $9,000 bass on my back. I can't, and generally, if you're nice, they're nice when it comes to travel. So if you're not being a dick and giving them a load of trouble,
well, Bonamassa buys a seat for his guitars.
If he has to
Oh,
travel.
Yeah. But, it's a 58 Les Paul, so that's why you do that.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can totally do that. And if it's an airline, if I'm unsure, like, and I'm with a bigger production or a bigger artist, I'll just ask them to buy a second seat.
There you go.
In a pure diva move, you're going to have to buy me a second seat for my instruments, please.
See, there was you just went past another kernel of knowledge right there.
Yeah.
Don't be a dick.
There you go.
Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
Especially to the airlines.
Right.
I mean, it's so sad. This applies to everything in life, as I'm saying. It's just be nice. Like, Jesus, it's like life's an awful lot easier if people are just nice to each other.
For sure.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
it's
it
like,
works.
honestly, the difference it makes, especially when you're you're traveling all over the world, different countries, different cultures, different, people are different, and that's awesome. But like, if everyone's just baseline nice to each other, baseline, but no pun intended. But it's simple, and it makes things easier, and especially when you're things like that when you're traveling with your gear, and they know if it's precious to you, and you're not giving them hassle. Because they're just doing their job and you're just doing your job. So
right, and you needed to do your job, and hopefully they understand
exactly.
that. But pedals,
exactly.
Pedals. Any pedals in your signal chain?
Yes, yes. So I used to use a lot of pedals, and then I on a tour one time I lost a giant pedal board. It got broken and then went missing. So I gave up on the pedal world for a long time because I was pissed off. And then only last year I started with Dee and with another band I was playing with last year that kind of sonically needed some, chorus and delays and whatnot. I got on board with MXR, and my rep hooked me up because I'm with Dunlop strings. I use the Marcus Miller strings.
Cool. There you go.
They turn on your brights. So they're those both companies are affiliated with each other. So my rep that does my string endorsement sent me out a bunch of awesome MXR pedals. So I have I have one of those mini pedal train pedal boards, just the little cute ones, the smallest one. I think they're called Nano, pedal train Nano, and I have 5 MXR pedals on it, and it's just neat and lightweight again.
Well, it matters. It's funny, the older you get, the heavier stuff gets.
Well, Paul Gilbert told us, remember what Paul said? He goes, he goes to the hardware store, he buys a pine board, but he buys a pine board that has all the knots in it because that's the top of the tree and it's lighter.
Nice.
Wraps it in Velcro, and he says he makes it the exact size of a suitcase so he can put it in the middle, and that way he doesn't even have to have a road case for it.
Yeah, just pile clothes on top.
Very clever. Yeah, no, the weight thing is big, and that's especially when you're bouncing between different levels of tours. Like for a lot of stuff, obviously, we travel with crew, and I have a guitar tech, and that's great when you have crew. But then you go back to a smaller tour, and you're carrying your own stuff, so. Which is awesome, and I'm used to that, no bothers. But you don't want to be like, oh no, I have to go and haul all this stuff. So lightweight is great.
Yeah, it truly is. A lot of people have stopped carrying Anvil flight cases just for that very reason. Humping those things through an airport is not fun anymore.
Well, I had a 20-something rack, and I just remember, I was like, well, the rack weighs 250 pounds.
Right.
I haven't even put anything in it.
Oh, my God. I remember that.
Yeah, it was like a refrigerator.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I had the exact same thing years ago when I got paid for a bigger gig and spent the whole thing on a GK rig with like 5 rack-mountable things I did not need. Like studio tuners and all this crap. It was so funny.
Yeah, it's amazing how things have gone. As technology goes, I don't know what the tuner companies are doing, like Peterson and all. They got to be like just selling to roadies like crazy because everything clips on the headstock now.
Right.
I know.
Right. And there's a tuner on every guitar in the boat.
Yeah, and it's like, well, how much did your tuners cost? Well, they're $10.
Yeah.
I know. It's just bad for the old companies, but I guess, that's how life rolls. New stuff comes in, and I guess companies have to just try and keep up with it.
Yeah, I mean, Peterson, they do make a headstock thing, I think, now.
They make a stomp.
Yeah, they make a pedal that's really nice, you know? So
it's gorgeous.
Yeah, of course, that headstock tuner isn't going to do what their rack mount, $1,000 guy does.
You're not going to get awesome intonation setups.
Right? You're not going to be tuning your intonation off your headstock.
But it'll get you close enough for rock and roll.
That's right.
Right? I'm still old school. I still have the old Boss tuner pedal on my pedal line, and I love it.
There you go.
Nice.
Just to double check, because I'm seriously OCD about tuning, so I'll have a headstock tuner and the pedal tuner and my phone on, and just making sure. And and then everyone's laughing, and then I get up and it's like rock and roll. It's pretty funny.
The only thing that is a pain in the ass with that a lot of times is on a sunny deck. When the sun is just shining on this, you can't see.
I know, but
that's
the great
horrible
thing about having clever techs. My very first tech, who I'm still super friendly with in Ireland, came up with a genius thing for that, and I'm sure it's universal. My tech here does it now if it's a daytime set, especially at festivals, even if it's evening. So they'll make a little cardboard like
shroud
cover. Yeah, like it's a stage, like a little thing over the tuner, so it creates a shadow so you can see it.
Yeah, it's necessary.
Well, I once again, Paul Gilbert, he said he uses the Boss one, the white one, because that's the only one you can see in the daylight. Because the Korg one, the pitch black one, you just lose it.
Yeah,
it's just gone.
Yeah. Never thought of that actually, the Korg one, because I've always used that Boss one. Actually, I have the old one. Like, I mean, I didn't even get the new one. It still works.
Well,
but you got to make like a little hood, a little hat for the tuner out of cardboard or something. So it's really
I'm going to make my tuner hats. I'll make a ton of money.
The shroud of tuner.
I think it's brilliant. And actually, I recently had a company give me a couple of little, because I play barefoot. And with some pedals, it's fine, like the Boss ones, if they're flat that you jump on, but the MXR, the little pins.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm used to it, but you know, in the middle of jumping around the stage, I run over, I jump on it, and I'm like, my foot! So I got these little, like, pedal top things that you can stomp on.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, like little, it just spreads the load out a little bit.
The company's called Barefoot Pedals.
Nice.
Yeah, and actually the rep gave me a little one with a shamrock on it at A&amp, which was awesome.
Wow, somebody thought of your
they think of everything.
Condition. Yeah, wow.
That's
cool.
why I say, you know, if you have the idea in your head, somebody's already made it.
Yeah, probably.
Right?
Twice and made it better.
Yeah, probably. Which
long
is
as it
funny.
works. Well, Tanya, is there anything else that we haven't covered that you want to cover? I mean, we did gear and your history and everything. Any releases that you want to talk about? Do you have any solo stuff that you do, or anybody that you play with that you want to, talk about the release?
Yeah, I mean, this year is kind of going to be a bit of everything, because literally, like next week, I kick off again. I got I also work a little teaching on the artist mentor program with the International School of Rock. So
nice.
I just came back from Seattle doing that, and I'm going to Toronto and New Jersey and New York, Manhattan to do some shows, and then I kick off with Dee. We start doing fly dates, but in between the fly dates all summer, I'm actually going to start working on my very first solo project.
Nice.
So, well, not solo, like original, because I keep meaning to do it, but honestly, like, it just hasn't stopped. All these years, I've just always been doing this, 10 bands at a time. So it's going to be more for fun than anything else. Myself and two of my good friends, I'm going to do like some instrumental trio stuff and see how it comes out. I'm going to put absolutely no pressure on it. I'm just going to have fun with it, because I like all sorts of weird music. So it's, it's just going to be a project that we go in when I'm off the road and when they're off the road, record a couple of songs at a time, and hopefully by the end of this year have something to be like, hey, for the first time I did an original thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Best of luck with that, and I hope I hope you tour as much as you want to, but it leaves enough time to get that fun project done.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It's balance, and I always try and have that in life. Like, so tour enough, and then, because I work with a bunch of different things in this industry, as you know. So yeah, between touring and being home and teaching and trying to write stuff and trying to take over the world in general and shoot a documentary and write a book and blah blah blah.
Well, there you go.
Now I have one last question.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak Gaelic?
Yeah, pretty badly, but good.
Because I was wondering if there's any way you could I don't know, what could we get her to say?
Oh yeah, I can sign off in Irish.
Oh, that would be.
Or we could do the the Amps and Axes. We could get her to do a show thing like that.
Do you want her to hang on, or do you want to do it now? We could let our listeners in on how we do this.
You could sign off with that, and then we'll get you to do an ID in Gaelic. So.
That's really funny. Okay, well then it'd just be like Sláinte Macorja, Gurmila Mahagat, Ms Tanya O'Callaghan, Slán Lat.
There you go.
I love it. I have no idea what it means. I love it.
When I saw those signs over there, I was like, we're lost. We're lost. We're never getting back to where we have to be. The ring
You'll
of
never
Kerry.
know what I said.
No idea.
See, that's true. That's true.
Well, right now, all of our Irish listeners are going, what did she
We
just
are going
say?
to get an email that's going to tell us.
They're
what
probably
you
like,
said.
that was not proper Irish. This dialect.
She's been there too long.
That wasn't proper Irish, but what she called you guys, man,
was very inappropriate.
That's right. Well, there's nothing better than an inappropriate sign off.
There you go.
So, Tanya, thanks for taking the time.
Yeah.
It was great to virtually meet you and speak with you, and all the luck in the world, man. All the luck in the world.
Thank you. Thank you. Much appreciated. Thanks for having me on.
And there you have the story.
Yeah, man. Hey, and guess
Straight
what?
from Ireland.
And guess what? Just because, we do a little bit different, I wanted to report something because we were speaking to a female bass player.
That's true.
Our female bass player friend, Angeline Saris, got her bass back.
Oh, nice.
They found it on the side of the road.
Ooh.
Somebody must have just ditched it, right?
Well, I mean,
they probably were trying to sell it, and they couldn't.
And you can't.
Yeah, it made the news.
It did. I mean,
big.
you can't move. What are you going to do with it?
Yeah, exactly. So, but from what I understand, it's unplayable above the 15th fret. So there's getting some work done to it because it got some water damage because it was out there for a couple weeks or so, I guess.
Wow.
But how about that? Came back.
Awesome.
And people stop stealing instruments. What the hell's wrong with you?
Really, get a job.
Yeah.
I mean, they resurrected half of the instruments, maybe more than half of the instruments that got damaged in the Nashville floods and everything.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping hers comes back as good or better than ever, with a hell of a story attached to it now.
Yeah, exactly, man.
So, good on it.
And
good.
just what a crazy career this girl's had.
Yes. Yeah. Again, just say yes.
Yeah.
Want to play death metal? Yeah.
So, until next time, my friend.
That's right. And it won't be 4 years.
That's right. I'm Mick Marcelino.
And I'm Jeff Bober.
And we're always saying,
onward.
Be sure and follow the show on Twitter @AmpsandAxes. Also, make sure you like the show on Facebook. For news, comments, and everything else, visit the webpage ampsandaxescast.com. Thanks for listening.